Well, good morning, everybody. We had a bit of a delay, but we're here now, and I hope you enjoy this recording. I'm Elektra and this is Liz Geyer we're with the Language of Consciousness Institute, and we are two of the original teachers of the Language of Creation program that we started teaching back in 2016. So one of the things that we're involved in right now is we're helping Tantra edit the Language of Creation book. You have this one, into add additional up-to-date information. So one of the things that we got to do was look at a chapter called How to Use the Creation Exercises. And if you want to follow in the book what we're talking about, it would be pages 24 through 26. And we call it a chapter now because we divided the book up separate, but just know that it's pages 24 through 26. In any case, one of the things that struck me as we were doing this, we read it out loud, okay? We read it sentence by sentence. And all of a sudden I'm going like, oh my God, these are so powerful. Oh my God, there's so much there. I didn't know that. And, and when I was thinking, we started to talk about this and the phenomenon of how we read. Like I tend to just go, yeah, I got it. Okay, yeah, I got it. Yeah, when I read. But when I go back to this particular chapter, this particular 2 pages, and I find out that there's all this significance and meaning in there that I totally missed when I probably read that book for the first, second, third, fifth time, because I was reading it fast. What was your experience, Liz?
I want to say that maybe there's some spiritual maturity that we've gained over the years. I just find that this particular time, reading it aloud, and the way that the structure of the sentences are laid out this time, it's like getting an activation. It's like the body is activating, literally activating. I feel there's a hum in my body when reading this now. That was not there when I first read the book. And the language is revised. I mean, the basics are there. It's the way it's been written this time, the structure of the sentences, because I noticed that when we're reading it, we notice that there's so much in one sentence that we have to drop the next sentence down and onto the next line. And when we do that, then the body, it's a whole system response, which is so exciting, and I didn't feel that the last time. The last times, because I've taken myself through it a number of times. And now, I don't know, it's like taking a wonderful magnesium bath or something, with Epsom salt. It's very nourishing reading it this time, and the whole body is taking it in, taking in the information. So the language, it's like the words, I don't know about you, Elektra, but the words pop out, certain words pop out. One of the sentences talking about that as you write, your journey on earth becomes a meta point and an embodiment in the physical and non-physical in varying degrees of unity. And that really struck me this time. So there's, each time I read the new draft, even something new pops up. And then, I'm going to be really honest here, there was a part talking about energy, a meta point in energy. And that pinged me. You know, it's like zap, like it zapped me.
Well, let's unpack some of the phrases that hit us, because I did the same thing. I went back to say, okay, what are the phrases that really got my attention, that pinged me? And I'd have to agree with you that, and this I'll say to anybody who's read it, the first time you read it, you're reading it for overall comprehension, and your body and your spirit are responding to the message, whether you totally comprehend it. As you write the creation templates and continue to write them, I mean, over time, over years, what you begin to understand and comprehend is the deeper meaning of these sentences. That Tantra wrote them in 2013, so that's 20 years, 10, 15 years after, since she's been working with them, developing them and working with people with them. So, you know, we're all behind the 8 ball here as far as time with the templates, because Tantra still goes, oh my God, yes, look what this, I need this template now, or this is what it's doing for me. So that there's one thing to kind of put in perspective as we go, why didn't I get this, or the depth of it? Well, there's no way you get it. It's sort of like talking to, I remember once talking to my sister who was in high school and I was in college. And I was trying to explain an experience to her. And she went, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. But she was at a very surface level of her understanding of the experience. And there was no way I could get her to the depth that I was after. And that strikes me as happening when you're writing the creation exercises, when you're reading this book. Because the first time you read it, you're really in a, okay, let me follow the logic. Let me get to this. And then you can go back. And I urge you to go back time to do that again, to really look at it and soak it in. Here's one I've got. Just listen. The templates are structured to actualize the restoration of your full intelligence, which is your mind, when it is reconnected to the greater intelligence from which everything comes into existence. So if you think of everything, if you've been with Tantra for a while, of all the things that you've learned over the, some of this is 10 years more, whether it's a year or it's 20 years, there's a depth there. It's like restoration of your full intelligence. If I was at a surface level, I would say, oh, okay, I'm just going to be smarter, right? That's what they're going to make me. But when it is your mind, okay, which is different than the full intelligence, right? Your mind can be your larger mind as well as just the mind of your historic mind. But when your mind is reconnected to the greater intelligence from which everything comes into existence. So in the creation exercises, you end up having a connection with source, with creation, with your God, with your goddess. That is much more tangible and experiential than, let's say, just writing something normal. And that's a big promise right there. That's how I see this. Do you want your full intelligence, your ability to be in the mind of, with the mind of God, with the mind of your higher being? If you want that, this is what you do. It's huge. That sentence all by itself.
Yeah, and that's I don't know if that was the sentence that got me thinking when we were doing the revision to, oh my gosh, this was like a prescription. Like I filled this prescription for 2 years. So it's definitely, you know, I knew that this was an energetic prescription that my whole system needed in order to rewire. You know, that's the prescription. For me, it was 2 years. For others, especially now, 10 years, 11 years later, it may not take as long because people are more aware. Um, I know for myself that it takes me a while to integrate practices. And, but yeah, I really saw this as a prescription, and I love that. So, oh, um, this morning I was thinking, yes, it's a prescription, and you have to fill the whole prescription. You know,
Right.
yeah.
And it may be a little bit like you have to fill the prescription. So in this case, you have to start writing the creation exercises. And with a medical prescription, you have to take it a certain number of times every day, and you have to complete the prescription in order for it to have its effect on the system. And that's the same thing with the creation exercises. They can be, just like everything else we've learned, something that you say, oh, that was an interesting class. Yeah, okay. Right? And the book is on the shelf. You never use it again. You go, yeah, that was a good class, but you never use it and apply it. And we all go through periods of time, those of us who've been writing them for a long time, where we actually forget to use them. And then something occurs in our lives, like it's occurring now with all these shifts going on. And we go, oh, whoa, this is the time to get back to it. And that's, when we're talking about how to use the creation exercises, it says use them, write them. Even if you're just, even if you're just doing observings, and it's not a just for observings, because observings are extremely powerful.
Well, I will say there's a new observation on that I had this morning when I was rereading this particular chapter, and that is, when you talk about the two exercises merging like the Taoist symbol, that they need to be together to form the full alchemy or / prescription. Yesterday, I was in it big time, in it, and I wrote 2 observing beings standalone, and I was in it so significantly that I couldn't even come to anything. I just felt I could still kind of feel the looping, and by the end of the second one, what came out of it, what I observed was, I think you just need to sleep. And this morning, and looking back, and it did help. In hindsight, writing those 2 observing beings really did help. It got me out of the loop. They got me to take a nap. When I came out of the nap, the looping was gone. There was still some frustration there, but I thought, this morning I thought, if I could have just hung in there and found something to crave, that maybe there might have been a different result. So,
yeah, the only thing you can do in that case, and we said often, is you look at the observing, and maybe in the observing itself is the thing that you want to crave. Mastery of your computer and being one of them, right? But one of the factors that we don't pay attention to when using the creation exercises for our self-study is the power of them to do what you did yesterday, which is, I'm looping, this is not doing me any good. I'm going to write some observings because all I know is that I'm going crazy right now. And what that did was calm you enough so you could sleep. Because when you have real loopy mind, there is no way you're sleeping, right? So using them when we're highly frustrated or we're in a loopy thing really gets us out of it. So one of the next things that says in this chapter, and it goes back to what you were saying earlier about oscillating rates, if you think about the templates from the craving being, craving what X is for me is, craving what being X is for me, X is being, through meta point and 6 and 7, there's a different experience in each of them. And what she says in this is that there are different actually oscillating, they stimulate oscillating rates, opening up portals to higher vibrational states. Well, if you ever want, again, another prescription, right?
Yeah.
So you want to have access to a higher vibrational brain state, right? You don't want to get stuck in your old historic mind. What are you going to do? You're going to write the creation exercise. Yeah. Because then she says, in writing your words between the words of the template and the creation exercises. So you're only putting in your life enhancing phrases in those areas. She says, you find you can think in higher vibrational states. And isn't that true? We end up by the end of a creation exercise, we go, whoa, did I say that? Whoa, okay. You can see what you couldn't see, know what you couldn't know, and solve what you couldn't solve, which is what Liz did yesterday. You couldn't get, right?
Yes, I did. However, this morning, in observing further, I went, okay, this is an experiment I want to try. I want to try, even when I'm in the muck, still after writing 2 of these, to try to do the craving, whichever, probably craving what would be the best thing to do. And I solemnly swear I will go back and do that today, because I want to see what happens. Because we're in it right now, right? We're really in the transformational aspect where we're up leveling, and it's going to take more grit to move through these times. And so I noticed yesterday the oscillating rate started to raise. And then I think in the in between, I love how she says the in between, right? In between the templates. So that magic, that alchemy is sandwiched in between the templates. You know, when you're doing your writing, the words that, the language that comes up when you're writing, that becomes the alchemy. And even though what I was writing was not necessarily positive in the observing being that I did, there was an alchemy in between, right? What I was present to, what I was open up into. And it was sort of like taking a crowbar and just unearthing that muck. Yet I want to play with the experiment of, okay, now let me crave what I want to see with that, and then go back and re-observe. But that, I think that was my favorite part of the whole chapter, when Tantra wrote about the in-between, right? Like reading between the lines kind of thing, but that's where the alchemy, to me, that's where the alchemy is. Because,
well, it is, yeah. It's the structure of the exercise itself is an alchemical formula. And it's simply, you put into the spaces that which you crave to appear. And you begin a process that you could not begin otherwise without that structure. There just isn't any way to do it. I can think all the positive things I want, but if I don't put it within a structure like the creation exercises, then it just doesn't manifest as quickly. One of the things she says here, as you continue to write your creation exercises, fear, anxiety, and panic subside. You move more gracefully with life's transitions. Circumstances begin to align with your inner vision, and isn't that a magnificent moment? You sustain and maintain the broader view of your higher mind what was once hoped for begins to manifest.
Yeah.
What a promise.
Yeah.
That if you do this, that which has gotten in your way lessens, and that which you are increases, and it changes the reality that you exist within, which is when she gets into meta points. And the next phrase is, as you write your craving and observing exercises, your language of creation dormant within you. So this is yours in you, reactivates into meta points where reality operates in unity with creation. So I think one of the problems that we have as human beings is that we think we're all alone. We don't really think we have any help, right?
Yeah.
You know, that's the old pull yourself up by your bootstraps, all on your back, that kind of phraseology. But when you start thinking that you are starting to work with creation, creation is working with you. It is supporting you in creating this new reality. And you become the meta point of that. So it's creation, God, goddess, whoever you, the words you use, and you, and then there's this meta that in writing the creation exercises you are in, which is manifesting what you have craved to have for this lifetime, for humanity, for Earth.
Pretty cool. And reading this, I finally got that meta point is energy. Duh.
How long have I been doing this?
Hello.
Okay.
And, so I visualize, I follow the bouncing ball. I visualized that and just, I could see, it wasn't that meta point wasn't a human, but I saw the dot energized. And
When we open to somebody's got my back, when we open up to that, there's an entirely different experience of being in life, right?
totally.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's like, okay, I can relax on this. It isn't me to figure out.
Yeah, that happened yesterday. Even in the muck of it, I knew that in the writing of it, I wasn't alone. And then later, even not having written a craving, I was able to have a conversation with someone who listened. And we both agreed that, again, we can't go this alone. You have to be in conversation with one another. And so that was what manifested out of the observing beings that I wrote. Now, my query is, what might have happened had I been able to get the grit, just sit in grit and try and write that craving what might happen. So that's going forward, right? That's what I'll try and do.
Well, that's the experiment.
That's the experiment. Yeah.
Because sometimes you have to, I think sometimes when you say grit, that means I'm going to force myself. It's just on me to figure this out.
Oh, yeah. Good observation. Thank you. It's the grit when in the moment, when I'm in the observing, and I'm in the sadness and grief and frustration and all of that, to have the grit to not give up, to write that craving. I think,
yeah.
Does that clarify it a little more? Because I didn't feel alone. Well, no, I'll be honest. I did feel alone when I first started it. As I continued, because I wrote 2 right in a row, as I continued, I realized, no, I'm with creation here. But needing the grit, just the perseverance of then moving forward.
Persevere and do it. Because a lot of times people will say, well, I don't have anything to crave. I don't know what to crave. And one of the suggestions we always give is then we'll write observings. And out of the observings will come the craving. And you're saying that right now. You're saying, you know, I did take the advice from the craving, the observing that I should sleep. And maybe if I continued with the craving and listened to, found a craving out of the observing, then things would have opened up quicker for me. One of the next things down, she says, is writing the craving exercises in conjunction with the observing exercises. So we're making a difference between the word creation exercises, which is both of them, and then craving and observing exercises. So when she says, you evolve into your complete form, your embodiment, the meta self of spirit, flesh, being, which is what we're all after. I don't think you're on this channel listening to us if you don't want to be more of who you came here to be, more of your original design, more of your connection with creation. And these templates help us do that. And if you listen to Liz, she says, I'm on my next step of this. I've done the observings, I've slept, it's a new day. And now I'm going to do more of a craving so that she has the experience of meta self, of spirit, and flesh, being and human. Is that correct?
That's completely correct. I want to be able to connect again with myself, with that higher aspect. And I did feel a disconnect. Yes, well, I felt it for a while. And so I call for myself, I call that being in a recursion. I'm in a recursion of self. So when I'm in that, that muck, I know that I'm moving toward the next greater whole. And that's the perfect time to be doing these cravings. And I know that. And, like you said earlier, we forget, right?
We forget all the time. I think it's something pretty amazing about whatever the structure of the human historic mind is that we fall back into this separateness instead of unity.
Yes, and it's the e-ticket, that's for sure.
Okay. The last phrase on the last part of what she wrote, and this is, I think, really significant for what we're talking about right now. She says the capacity for manifestation is like the Taoist symbol. So the Taoist symbol with the black and the white halves, where manifestation cannot exist one without the other. So you have to do both. You can't do, and I've talked to a lot of people that just do observings or just do cravings. And if you don't do both, then you're not in the cycle of manifestation. The only reason the craving and observing templates are separate is to bring your mind back into whole system thinking. And whole system thinking is when everything operates, you are comprehending the world or whatever you're looking at in all of its connections to everything else at once. So it's a different form of thinking than we're used to in the reductionist system that we were trained into, right? And when I say whole system thinking, my brain starts feeling different just because it's coming from all these different, but we can do it. And in the new field work, they actually are trying to get people back into this whole system thinking. So you look in that field about how is your body, language, and emotions constantly interacting and creating the reality that you exist within. But it's a something that you can shift. We are not stuck with reductionist thinking. But at this, and her last phrase is this: at this writing, most of humanity can no longer think with whole system thinking. The two craving templates heal that separation. So I would say she's only talking about those two right now, because that's the book is only about craving and craving. But we know that everybody who has used all of the 7 cravings know that they are healing these different levels, vibrational levels, and that we can return to whole system thinking. And when we do that, there won't be separation anymore because everything is interconnected all the time. What do you
Yeah, I was just thinking too, there's another query I had this time in that to fill the prescription originally when I first began, I would write the craving or the craving being one day and I'd observe the next day. And now I'm wondering, you know, time, everything is set up. And I'm wondering if, and I think we can all think about this for ourselves based on what we're aware of in the moment. But I'm wondering if right after the craving that I look at the craving and then observe right away now, rather
Sure.
than waiting.
Well, there's a difference in, I think, in the two. I think craving being, craving what being, and for 6 and 7, definitely you write it, you write you're observing being right away because you're in a state of being, you're in a state of experience. The other ones, I think sometimes I think it's valuable to do observings a number of times. So you may write in a craving or craving what, or the meta point, and you go, this, I'm going to do observing right now, but I would say do an observing 2 days out, 5 days out, 10 days out to see what shifts. Because I think that original advice to wait a few days was really about allowing the system to absorb the message and the craving and seeing how, observing how your life has shifted. You know, so even if the observing is about your grocery list, you are absorbing the craving that you wrote, right? When you read it again, you go like, oh, really? I said that. You know, usually that's what people are saying. I can't believe I said that. What part of me wrote that? But if you read, and that may be part of the purpose of observing, I don't know, to say, yeah, you wrote that. And that's, and then you get to almost recommit to, that's what I really do want that. What I wrote, even though I am surprised that I wrote that, it is what I really.
So what I'm present to right now is I think that as we gain experience in writing them, we can trust our being to see, you know, to know, should I write this observing right now, or should I wait and let everything marinate for a bit? And that's this is great because with Newfield, you know, we're learning to observe at a deeper level. And so for me, I mean, I'm observing now that I think that having written the observing, it would have been great to follow it up right away. But yet, even a day later now, I think it's going to really enhance and help move my whole system to the next greater whole with the experiment, so to speak. But yeah, I do remember, you know, just like you were saying, and going back the next day and looking at what I written the day before, I was constantly in awe. And it was also, I know we talked about sort of like a meditation. That was the meditation time as well. And it's just carrying the field of that energy into your day is amazing, or into dream time. You choose to write them at night.
One of the things I was just thinking while you were talking was, what if everybody took the book that they have now, okay, whether it's this book or whether it's Kindle, and practiced a meditation practice of a line at a time. Just pick a chapter. We suggest this one for starter because we think it's significant. But I'm thinking the reason that you and I and Tantra, but you and I most went like, oh my God, I can't believe that there's this depth in this sentence that I know I didn't read like this. I can even read it, not read it to that depth now, if I allow myself to read normally. But if I take one sentence at a time and just say, you know, today I am just going to contemplate that one sentence to restore your own unique connection to creation. A phrase of a sentence or a sentence. And then just allow that to work for a day with us. What does that mean for me? What does unique connection to creation mean? It goes back to the issue of unique and essential. And, but I think that's a great exercise. I'm going to try and do that.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love
So that we kind of absorb it and get in our bones. It's one of the ways that Tantra writes is there's levels and levels of meaning, and you can take it at the surface level or you can take it deeper. And she invited us to use the creation exercises to get to the deeper aspects of ourselves and the deeper connection with creation. And, you know, and with others. One of the things that you brought up earlier was the connection with others. So we invite you, we're going to close this now. We invite you to do two things. One is read the book again, but read it slowly. The second thing is come and join us on the Template Wisdom Gathering. It's the third Sunday of every month most of the time. You can look on the website to see exactly when it is, because we have these kind of conversations in the Template Wisdom Gathering. It isn't everybody just looking at their templates. It's more of this step back, be the observer. How does using the templates and writing the templates as part of your life, how does it shape your life? Any last thought, Liz?
I have to say the Template Wisdom Gatherings are so eye-opening and nourishing. So I highly recommend that time being steeped in the alchemy of the creation template.
Okay, thank you so much for taking time with us. And we'll have another video on YouTube and Facebook Live next Monday. Bye.